So the site name here is
Silog na lang may dahil lang.
Yeah. That's the site name. Is that the river name?
Yeah.
Faleata? At Faleata.
Oh, very low. Much better.
Let's see if it's got anything.
Hello, man. Take buddy. Hello, man. You can see here close up the solar regulator, the corrosions that's been caused by the missing vent spraying over the terminals. The pump pro here was locked on, just recording the datum value only of 1.125. It's a straight line over the period, so we replaced this. You can see this here, the top line being volts, bottom line straight line. The solar panel was faulty here, so no charge was coming through to the small bat. You can see this in the blue line where it gradually declines between battery changes. The tower is also silted quite bad. You can see a lot of vegetation growth in the weir and the flood that would all get caught. Here's a flushing Samoan style. Use whatever you've got. Works well. Good luck. See anything? Stop. Right? Yeah.
Kasi ito na pa. This is one problem, huh? Always told them, everything there, tea, everything. Yes. I think the other side is to access. Just jump on top of the somebody will do and do.
Yeah, tell me, what's the problem at the site?
What's the problem at the site? Vandalism is really common.
Yeah.
And cover.
Cover.
Tree cover.
Yeah.
Find it hard to maintain the power supply.
Yeah.
For the pumper to work.
Yeah.
So we might need to cut them down a few trees.
Yeah.
And put on another solar panel to make it suit. And Probably will work from there. It'll pop the way down. That whole wall.
Batteries are right out. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. 17. Makes me think of something wrong.
But I think that whole period's. This could be okay. This will crap.
Reasonable size battery, but it's they're not quite enough. However, what is happening is the batteries aren't going out in the field properly charged. And the charging system that the guys have here means that they can't leave them on charge overnight. This graph is sort of like a hydrograph that's been completely flattened for each river. And so if we take this one here, where there's a line, there's data. Where there's a gap, there's not just a few hours because for some reason. So there are some sites, as you can see, that here we are in Lake. So you can see back here at Lower East, there's quite a few gaugings here and there's none right through to here. And that is because they have yet to be loaded into tidy dam.
Okay, so the following is the data that we pulled off the loggers while we were there on both islands. And if we have a quick look at the raw CSV files in Starlog, you see what sort of problems we found at some of the sites. So Faliata, first site on Savahi. Just to make the plot look better, we can just choose what we want to display and also which way we want the graph to be formed, using the y-axis on the water level rather than on the voltage, so it gives us a better overplot, as you'll see. So you can see here we've got a couple of periods of long straight lines where the pump pro wasn't working. If we look at the volts themselves, you see they're well down near 10. They started okay, but they've been very low, not enough to run the pump pro. At this point here, the battery's been changed and the volts started to climb quite well and are sitting quite nicely, and we've got record from below. If we blow this period up, we can see here that the volts are responding quite well, and we did get water level record for a while, but it flatlined at the end, and this was due to the pump pro itself having a fault and reading the voltage very low to the point where it stopped operating, so we replaced that pump pro at this point. The neighbouring site, this site, no problem with voltage, clear solar panel, looks like the battery's been changed at one point there, but the record over the whole period was just straight line measuring the offset, so fault with the pump pro there, which we exchanged. Here it is being replaced. Another problem was the vegetation here too, but as long as that panel stays clear, it was pretty good. Okay, next site. Just change the scale. So here we can see there's obviously no solar charge taking place. The battery's been changed several occasions, but the volts have just slowly gone away to very low range. If we blow up the water level on the bottom here, this being a hydrologger, obviously operates to much lower voltage, and it's actually worked quite well over the whole period. You can see these two spikes here, one possibly the battery's being changed, and a drop here. So an offset may need to be applied there, looking at the log sheets to ramp that record either up or down. Otherwise, good record. Next site. Okay, here we can show again, this is a pump pro with low voltage over most of the period. Battery being changed at times. Where it's low, we're getting flat lines. It's changed here, the volts have come up. We've got some record for a while. Volts have dropped off, no record. Here, the battery's been changed, still nothing, possibly another inspection here. It's actually started the pump pro up again. We've got record for a while, volts have dropped, straight line. Another battery change later on. Still fairly low batteries being changed, not to a high level, but enough to get a little bit more records. So we blow that piece up. Yeah, we can see here again the battery being changed. A little bit of charge taking place, a little bit during the day there, but not enough. There's obviously not enough cover, too much cover there, not enough sun getting through. So hence straight lines. This side, I think the battery was, or the panel was stolen at this point here. The volts was lost. Otherwise, pretty good record for this side. If we just blow up the last few months, we can see it looks pretty good. Nice hydrographs. You can see going through the wet season, starting to dry out. Pretty good record. That's what you want. Yes, this site had the battery stolen on 2 occasions. Hence, with no power, the pump process stopped over this period. You can see this in the 2 straight lines. And another concern here, when the record does start up, there's this period here, looks like there's an offset needs applied, or a transform on each end of this section, which will raise it up and bring that right, and that record from then on looks pretty good. Poly, this is the site where the stilling well was silted. The intake was possibly blocked, or there's some reaction taking place when a fresh or flood would go past, but otherwise the float was sitting on the silt at the bottom. There was also, the logger was logging rainfall and battery volts twice, so we've changed the schemes as we went round too, just to keep them simpler and so they don't use up too much memory. So here we can see no charge from the solar panel either. So it was just a hydrologger on a small battery slowly going down, being replaced 3 occasions. The straight lines, possibly at the start where the cable might have been catching, and at the end, if we blow this part up, we can see the float's been sitting on the ground or on the silt. So very little change, it was sitting around about 200mm mark. So if we blow up that trace here, you can see it just only moving a millimetre. So hence we flush the tower. So if we now have a look at just a few photos, here's some from that same site. Where we had a download problem with Windows 7. But we've got the data off. Here's a problem here with the insect infestation on the recorder. Looking down the well, there's a little bit of water there, but a little bit of rot too in the timber. Staff gauge plates could be red, really placed. The weir itself is quite overgrown with vegetation. Not the answer, Mr. T. Rain gauge vandalism, obviously a problem that happens. Example of a well anchored staff gauge, it's a good job. This site, solar panel, but could be on mains, and the other side of the wall was 240 volts. Leaves being caught in the weir, rating problem. Sticks being caught in the controls, also changing the stage, rating problem. Another shot here, large stick in the log in the control. Insects or rubbing causing wear in the wires, exposing it. Earth wires at most sites weren't attached at all. Battery being put on the wrong way round, shorting out the logger. A little bit of corrosion on quite a few of the solar regulators. Be very careful with the small lot too, holding it directly into the flow, not to either side, which will therefore underread. So always make sure it's directly straight onto the flow coming at you. Leveling, keep up that good practice. And to keep those staff gauges leveled in and replaced as soon as possible. The old charge is not appropriate, it's a bit small, overheating, and the batteries are giving strange voltage back after testing. The battery area is not really appropriate in the office either for safety reasons. I think the best option would be to clear a shelf out in the container, get some power on and do all the charging through there. Here's an example of our battery area. We've obviously got quite a few different range of sizes of batteries here. And we have this big charger here that does 6 at once, also does discharge testing. As well as that we have smaller just standalone chargers, which is what you'll use. and also smaller banks of charging for the smaller batteries. And we also write the date we buy the battery and discharge tests and give a history of it.